Welcome to Uncomfortable, conversations about culture and Christianity. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined by Jess.
Hello, world.
And Alex.
Listen, Linda, it is your day. That is right. It is National Linda Day. Did you guys know that? It's been a while.
I think
It's just the worst. This bit of like having a day for everything is the
Linda
worst thing. I'm
means
so sick
beautiful.
of days. I don't care anymore.
Linda, the name Linda means beautiful, and this is the day to celebrate the name, says nationaltoday.com.
wow.
Yeah. You guys want to know the history of Linda? Or are we
Oh man, yeah, the name of Linda. I'm so intrigued. I do.
It's although German in origin, it became widespread in English-speaking world since
That's a
the
long
end of the
paragraph,
19th
King.
century. So maybe sometime we could use AI to shorten that paragraph. But there you go. It's celebrated every year on May 17th.
Linda is German. You know, my kids get annoyed every time I tell them that our last name is German because I'll always say the correct pronunciation would be Wind, Eric Wind. And then, and then I must do it more than I realize because the last time I brought that up, my daughter just rolled her eyes and was like, "Oh yeah, Wind, yeah, you're gonna do that again. We know." And I was trying to try to get them to care about their heritage a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like Alex was trying to get us to care about the heritage of all Lindas everywhere on National Linda Day.
Yeah, it comes from the German word "Lind," which means soft and tender. So.
What's the duh part?
Then, the word Linda, which is a feminine for lindo, means beautiful, pretty, or cute in Spanish, in Portuguese, and means clean in Italian. So,
If you're going to do a deep dive into a name, I'd like to hear you talk about Eric the way you're talking about Linda.
I will try to find out if there's a National Eric Day one of these days.
Yeah, that's the only one I'll care about.
It has to be on a Friday, though.
Narcissistically enough.
I can't, if it just pops up on another day, I can't just say Happy Eric Day.
I'd still celebrate it.
Yeah, that's true. All Eric Days observed here. I recently had a headline brought to my attention that made me think of National Austin Day. Who is our producer extraordinaire over there switching the cameras, who does not have a microphone right now. But
he's looking like, what's
he's
happening?
looking at me. He's like, why are you talking about me? I hope he isn't the first he's heard of this, and he doesn't take it too hard. But this headline out of 1011now.com says that Carney Cinema 8 is closing its doors on Thursday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Permanently?
Hometown of producer Austin at Woodvice.
Woodvice.co.
Yeah, do you have a lot of sentimental connections to the Cinema 9 in your hometown?
Cinema 8.
Cinema 8, sorry. No, he says no. So you didn't go to movies there? Oh, he did, but he doesn't care.
He looks sad. He's not saying he's sad, but
do you have a memory of a movie you watched there?
It's only been like 10 years open.
Oh, it's only been open for 10 years.
2007. It was
So you're saying it was short-lived.
10 years that I was there.
Yeah, okay. So
do you have a movie you remember watching there that you could tell us about?
did you go on any dates there?
Oh, you and your wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you propose there?
No.
He did not propose
okay.
there.
What was the last movie you remember seeing there?
This is good content.
Yeah, especially since you don't have a microphone. This is very good content.
He said he's been on dates there, many, many dates. He almost proposed there, but he chose somewhere else.
Now
And
he's
what was the
laughing
other thing?
Because
What's your
we're
last
just lying.
movie?
I don't know.
He doesn't know that.
He did hope
He said
10 years.
Jurassic World.
he did hope
Maybe?
that one of his YouTube
Lord of the Rings?
shorts from Woodvice would premiere there, but alas, it's closing.
Well,
Should have got him a box of tissues before we started.
yeah, he's very emotional
Talking
about
about this.
right now. Poor Austin cannot defend himself. He's just over there shaking his head. All right. Yeah. What?
It is sad when these things close, though. I mean, really.
The movies,
It makes me sad.
they're like an experience, when you
They
go to
are.
a theater.
I
I
love
think,
theaters.
there's certain movies that you just want to experience.
Oh,
with a
yeah,
crowd where
100%.
people are cheering. But I'm probably, I don't know if it's OC. You can diagnose me, Jess. I don't know if it's OCD or like anti-socialness or what it would be, but there's certain people that I might get sat next to that will kind of drive me crazy in a movie. Like when the
popcorn chompers.
Yeah, but it's like when the sound gets quiet in the movie, that's not time to pull the candy out and start crinkling the wrapper and trying to open. Like you wait for the volume to increase, something exciting to happen.
So it's theater etiquette.
It's just theater etiquette. It's common courtesy, and I don't know, that drives me crazy. I don't know why. It shouldn't. It's petty, but man, it'll ruin the experience.
It's valid.
Or sometimes there's, just people talking and that stuff. But the
or
overall
heavy breathing.
It's like coming to a church service or a concert or something. There is something about people gathering together that the energy in that space is, it's just very different.
Completely. I love it.
But we would rather have the convenience of, Netflix and streaming and watching things at home, I guess. But still going to try to support theaters where I can,
Same.
You guys got any upcoming movies on your radar to view in the theater?
Well, they just started talking again about how another Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's coming back to do another Lord of the Rings movie. And there's no way I would not see that in theaters first. So that's always my favorite. Every year I go to the Lord of the Rings marathon and it's just fun in theaters. Like I watch it at home, but there's just certain ones. All the Jurassic Parks went with the fam.
I have not seen in its entirety one Lord of the Rings. That is a long time.
Alex.
That is a long time to sit there. But I hear it's great stuff.
It's incredible. It's one of my favorite.
There's a ring
things.
and hobbits and other things.
I can't think of. I mean, like off the top of my head. I mean, there's probably like a Disney movie or something. I think Inside Out 2 is coming out. Might take the kids to see that one. Sequel to. Now that they're getting into the teenage emotions, so it's kind of fitting for my family's trajectory right now. But
we have the Jesus film. I'm probably going to see that one.
That is really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, talk a little bit about that because I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a film. The cool parts about it is there are some ties here to CCC. We've got a few members that are actually in the cast and we're part of the directing the film, but it's all done in ASL. And it does have musical underscores, subtitles, all that kind of stuff to be able to understand, but kind of takes from the angle. There was a Jesus film. A lot of people, when they hear the term Jesus film, think about missionaries because there was an original kind of really old at this point Jesus film that was translated in pretty much every spoken language or a lot of spoken languages, and they still are translating it, but there's never been one in ASL, which is kind of the heart language. So we showed up the trailer a few weeks ago here at Christ Community, and so that's coming out June 20th. So get your tickets, support it, and I think you can buy tickets actually now. So
yeah, that's cool.
I am looking forward to seeing that one
because the whole thing is signed.
Everything,
everyone is, all the actors are signing.
Yeah, and so I'll have to. It'll be interesting too to get to feel you. It's not the same, but to kind of feel I'm reading the subtitles and not able to kind of keep up with the language, which is kind of the inverse of probably typically most
different experience
who are deaf that have to kind of bounce your eyes back and forth. So it'll be interesting. So
yeah. All right. Well, up next we're going to be talking about deepfakes, AI, you name it, all the scary things of technology that are coming our way, are not even just coming our way, but are part of our current existence as humanity. But talking a little bit about should Christians fear AI? What does it mean for us as believers? Also, hopefully just making people aware of like what's out there and how to discern the real from the fake and so much more. So be sure to stay tuned for that. It's definitely become a buzzword lately. AI. What does that mean? I think there's a lot of like fear mongering or I guess exaggeration,
curiosity,
hyperbole.
There's a lot.
Curiosity that's on the positive side. I was going negative, Alex. Why are you trying to make this positive?
Sorry.
Jeez. No, yeah, you're right. I think there is a lot of excitement and all of those things. Curiosity. People are exploring trying to understand what this means. And it's also become such like a throwaway term to say AI, which stands for artificial intelligence, which it really means something specifically, but we've just applied it to everything that is what we would consider a robot or automated or something that's non-human. But yeah, we thought we'd have a conversation about it. There's been a lot of different current events that have happened recently, whether that's celebrity deepfakes, apps that allow you to remove the clothing from people and generate, nude models in AI using artificial intelligence. I mean, I think for me, one of the it's one of those things where it becomes so hyperbolic when people talk about it. That can be kind of frustrating because it's like it is, but to a certain extent, it is what people say it is, but then to another extent, it's not. So let's dive into it a little bit and maybe hear from everybody around the table. Like, what's your experience with AI so far? What's your engagement level with it? How do you feel about it?
Before we get too far, you mentioned a word that maybe not everyone's familiar with, deep fakes.
Well, we're gonna get there.
Okay, all right.
We got this. I'm gonna explain deep fakes.
Okay, I just want. I know as long as people
hold
know.
On.
I mean, we could, but I want I want a little mystery. I want people to wonder what a deep fake is for a minute if they don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But I want to know your like familiarity. I know, Alex, you've been a fan of ChatGPT here and there.
Yeah, I think that was ChatGPT is the thing that probably came along and just blew my mind, probably more than any other thing. AI's been around and integrated in sort of a lot of the technology that people use a lot of the time. You have these automated voices like Siri, Alexa, all of these things that are using AI essentially to, communicate with us and have gotten better and learned more and all of these things. I think of how Siri, for example, just how much it's grown since the infancy of what it can do. I've gotten in the car on Sunday mornings and I plug my phone into my car and it tells me how long it's going to be to go to church because it just knows.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I'm heading on Sunday mornings. And it's convicting me if that's not where I'm heading on that particular Sunday morning. So, ChatGPT was one of the first times I remember like, whoa, that was just so fast and so much vast knowledge and the things that it could do. And then obviously people were playing around with like a bunch of kind of photo apps. Like I feel like especially last year, people were putting their photo through like every era, you just upload a photo and it's like, oh, here's me in the Renaissance. Here's my face inside of whatever it would be. And so that was just a fascinating thing. I remember Josh Lilly. Someone
that used to be, and
Josh Lilly was on
the podcast.
on staff in the office right next to Eric and I. And I remember one time he just like ran his face through like every single era in the world, and it was just hilarious.
Barbarian, Joshua Lilly, Viking.
Yeah, and it was just hilarious. But even that he had to submit it, and it took a couple days, and then it sent it back to him. So just the speed of ChatGPT, I think, is one of the things that just fascinated me.
Wild.
Jess, what are you feeling about it?
Totally wild.
What's the vibe check?
I feel like it honestly, at this point, it does creep me out a little bit. I don't know if you guys watched the movie this last year. The Creator. Do you remember that?
I know what you're talking about.
And it was just like all the things that we grew up like in the 80s, 90s, like watching like Terminator and like all this like artificial intelligence. Like it was something that was coming, not necessarily that was here. And so now that it's here, it's something that I don't know. It's very weird to me.
Yeah.
But also even like, is Alexa considered AI? This is just like, okay, this is just everyone that's listening can hear, like, we're talking at different levels here. And so, like, Alexa, my kids always ask in the morning, like, what's the weather today? And so now she knows that, like, around this time that we ask. So then she says, today the weather is, without us even asking, like, she'll announce it.
Oh.
And so those type of things kind of.
Why does it? I would like to get. I'm gonna turn the tables here and
go
and start to psychoanalyze you here.
Do it.
Like, what is it that makes you fearful around that, or what is that like? Maybe not afraid, but you have like maybe a gut instinct that's like, oh, like I don't like this.
I think it's because I don't know and I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then I will say that we can put this a lot into like family of origin too, because I feel like I grew up in like more. I personally do not hold to the beliefs of like a lot of conspiracy theories or thinking like, oh, things are listening to us. But that in the back of my mind really does play into my worldview even now, and I have to like check myself. So that's like really good that you even asked that, because it's like,
curious.
That's a great question of like, why, where does this come from? Even recently, like in counseling, I was telling you guys before, like people are using ChatGPT as therapists to write their notes, and people are, as they're getting audited, people are realizing that they're doing that, and people are getting in trouble because you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to give away a lot of information about somebody else, like to any other third party. Like they're asking questions like, is it breaking HIPAA to do that? And
wow, that's really fascinating.
to include things like that. So, yeah.
And we'll probably get into the ethics of some of that more later, but even here at the church, you know, Craig and Eric and myself have talked a little bit about those uses of it. Like, where is the ethical uses? How should we not create policies, but some procedures or best practices, at least, because of things like that, where you are essentially giving information that's confidential, that you've told people is confidential, into a system,
right?
And now it's there for other people in the learning, language learning model to be able to have access to it. And so you don't really know how safe it is or not in some ways.
Yeah, I think my interaction with it has been mainly just like I use it as a tool. Like it's something, because so many times my thoughts are so scattered. It's nice to have something that will help me organize my thoughts and kind of center me a little bit. And so I've even found myself just having conversations with ChatGPT in a weird way, not like getting advice, but just being like, what about this thing? And then like its response will spark another question, and then I'll kind of drill deeper. And then I do spend some of my time kind of sourcing it, like, well, okay, I wonder, is this true? What is it? Why is it saying this? Or I'll ask it advice just to see what it says, because I'm curious. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's mediocre. But I do think like one of my pet peeves is just talking about it as AI, because it really isn't. It's not artificial intelligence. We haven't reached that yet. Nobody has. And so I think talking about it that way kind of makes it, the value of that word or phrase, whatever, like lose its value. And it's a language learning model. And a lot of what the other softwares around it, like we're going to get into deep fakes here, but this stuff is, they're all learning models. So what they do is they take existing information and then, almost like Google, but at like a lightning speed, put all that information together and formulate their own content. So ChatGPT is looking at every example of writing on the internet, and
up to a certain date as
sure,
well.
Yeah. And then it's formulating, oh, this is how people talk. So it's a language learning model. It is not sentient. It is not an artificial intelligence.
So like artificial intelligence would be something that's functioning completely on its own without a human intervention?
Yeah, without, like the human might create it and then it could go out on its own. I mean, and ChatGPT feels like that, but that it still has limitations, where AI would be closer to, I mean, I use this very loosely, but like humans creating God. Like that would be closer to what AI would be, is something that could start to create its own thing, not just create from what it's learning from its information.
What's being input into it.
Right. Or the information accessible to it, like the internet. So anyways, deep fakes, that's one of the things that have been in the headlines a lot recently. And if you don't know what deep fake means, deep fake is technology that uses AI algorithms to create highly realistic videos by superimposing one person's face onto another person's body. These videos can be used to depict individuals saying or doing things they never actually did, leading to misinformation, defamation, or political manipulation. I think recently there was headlines about Tom Hanks warning against this because there were ads going around for certain services or products or something like that using him. And AI can also recreate their face. I mean, their voice as well as their face. Robin Williams' daughter was recently outspoken about condemning this because people were recreating his likeness for other, their own purposes or personal gain.
Like creating new pictures of him.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest fear people had about this was like political misinformation. Like, okay, they could, make this president say this thing and this could start a war or whatever. But I think we're starting to find the more practical problems are things like celebrities being put into pornography because there's a version of I think we can't think of her. Kristen Bell. Is that what I'm thinking? Dax Shepard's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's her.
He through Dax's connection with Ashton Kutcher or something, like they were talking, and both of their Mila Kunis and both of their wives were in these videos that were going around the internet, and it's like you just think about the integrity that strips away from a person, and like what that I think the average person who has no connection to this could see something like that online. I mean, even think of someone like a church leader or something like that and put that content out there and completely ruin their lives, because there's so many people who would be uninformed enough that wouldn't be able to like see that it's even possible, or be like, no, this is real. I saw their face. So this person, this is wrong.
Well, I've seen Jimmy or what is his actual Mr. Beast?
Mr. Beast, yeah.
Like
you guys are on a first name basis.
Yeah. Just ads of him, showing up, and because he gives away things all the time. And so like YouTube has allowed ads of him that are not real, like saying he's going to give away, certain kinds of things. Or Taylor Swift and Emma Watson recently, it said in this Forbes article that was talking about the Tom Hanks stuff, that they've been used on, their likeness and voice has been used on different websites to create these things. And it also states that 95% of deep fakes are actually porn, which I think is a scary thing to think about from that side of things. One, like if someone assumed that was actually a person, and two, like, I mean, that's an addiction that's already there, and there's already enough damage that like a porn addiction and things like that can do to people's hearts and their minds and their lives. But then to have even like almost infinite access to it, in this kind of way, could create, a lot more pain. And, people already are putting out, they'll send revenge. There's like revenge porn, and there's these types of things that are already happening inside of
which with that
world.
Revenge porn. I mean, we could define that as well. I think it's video, or that would be something if you were with a person and you took video of an intimate interaction, and then after you broke up,
or they text you,
or they shared that,
shared a picture of themselves.
You share that out of spite after the relationship ends.
So there's those things happening, and so there's more and more thoughts around, okay, how do we start to legislate this stuff? Because it's non-consensual, it's, AI generated, illegal. And right now, like, our government and policies are just not set up really to defend a lot of this.
And
feels behind.
Like, the hard truth about it too is that the people in our government are not equipped to have those conversations. They do not understand it. Majority of them are at a place in their lives that they are beyond even comprehending it. And so how are they going to have
because of age
and just, and not, that isn't necessarily, I'm not coming at that from an ageism perspective. It's just a reality. They're not a
priority. They
would just go, either this is scary and bad, or I don't get it, or whatever. And so then how do we even legislate it when the people are in our own government are inept to do so? I think one of the other things that have come out of this is the Nudify type apps that people are using to put photos of people into that app, and it's creating altered versions of those people. And I think you mentioned consent, Alex, and I think one of those important aspects of that is there is no consent in that in that scenario when someone's just taking the likeness of someone else and turning them into a fantasy or whatever.
Yeah. And even when we were discussing this, because this is one of the places that legislation is really trying to move as quickly as they can, I think. And there's a lot of organizations that work with traffic people and are, and that are trying to shut down things like the Pornhub and other, pornography type of places, especially because there's so much, just illegal stuff that happens in there, trafficking, children, a lot of just disgusting things that happen inside of that industry that are allowed. They're really trying to put a lot more legislation into stopping some of these things, but we don't want to introduce this new way to find these things to somebody who maybe have a struggle or an addiction. So there's that balance of, okay, we're trusting mostly this is adults listening to our podcast, because we never want to be the people that are introducing, a
sin into someone's life.
Or a potential temptation into somebody's life. That's very real. And so I think that's a big thing that we were talking about as far as having this conversation, but it's true. It's
a fact of reality is that this is happening.
Well, and it could force people to not get, I think of just pedophilia, which is absolutely disgusting, and all of us can probably agree with that, but it creates this opportunity for someone who might be addicted to that to like create this fake sense of it, and to fill those longings or those cravings and not actually go get help or whatever in any of those things. So it creates like this maybe secret underground place where you can maybe justify it even more, because I think that's one of the things about especially pornography addiction is there's a justification for I'm not actually hurting someone. And so then it takes another layer further when you're like, well, this isn't a someone. This is just a created thing. There's anime, a whole pornography industry there and all that kind of stuff. And people are just like, well, it's okay because it's not a person.
You mean hentai?
Yeah.
The anime version of pornography.
Well, yeah. So that version of it. And so that whole justification becomes more of like, well, nobody's getting hurt at the end of the day. And we don't realize, what it's hurting, how it's hurting us.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like we're still like, you're still the person that's getting hurt, and it's still your sin issue.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. It's well, and I think it's something you can look at too from a spiritual perspective, and like how the distortion of consent and boundaries that can happen within technology also can kind of like parallel like what happens in the spiritual realm when there are I think as Christians we acknowledge that there is an enemy that's lurking and trying to tear us down, tear us apart, put division between us and the Creator. And I think, like you said, Alex, it's easy when you're creating, when you say that, when it's not real, to say this isn't real, then now I've justified my actions because, well, this isn't real. But I think a lot of what we are deceived by in this life is probably allures, are temptations of things that are not real, or not tangible, or maybe once we do receive them, it's a temporary high, or it's it's something that's not everlasting. And I think one of the things too that we have to talk about is just how we use our discernment in these interactions, whether it's with AI or any type of technology, because I think there's two sides of it that we hinted at the beginning. There's the fear side, and then there's the other side that people are excited about it. But I think we should probably just take a minute to help people flex that discernment muscle and kind of define what AI generated content looks like and how you can identify it. And maybe it'd probably be easiest. Honestly, I have some notes kind of laid out here, and maybe I'll just read through them.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Just so people can hear it. So this is kind of like just some helpful ways to look out for AI generated text content. One is to check for coherence and consistency. Genuine text tends to exhibit logic, flow, coherence, consistency in ideas and language use. AI-generated text may sometimes lack coherence or exhibit sudden shifts in tone or topic. Evaluate contextual understanding. Genuine content often demonstrates a nuanced understanding of the topic, including context-specific details and references. AI-generated text may struggle to provide accurate or contextually relevant information. Look for human-like errors. Human writers often make subtle errors such as typos, grammatical mistakes, or inconsistencies, which will indicate authenticity. AI-generated text may be flawless or exhibit repetitive patterns that are uncommon in human writing. Verify sources and citations. Genuine content typically includes citations, references, or links to reliable sources, and support claims and statements of AI-generated text may lack proper attribution and provide vague references. And then engage in critical thinking. Analyze the content. Critically consider the credibility of the source, author's expertise, and overall tone, style, that sort of stuff. I mean, I think some of these things seem maybe just logical to people or like common sense, but I don't know how many times even I've fallen for like this is an AI generated, but it's like the parody accounts that you see online, and you read it and you go, oh my gosh, you get mad about something. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And then you all of a sudden, maybe you go to post about it or something and you realize, oh, I just got duped into reading something that's not even real. So I do think it's important to be aware of what that is. But I think where this gets more nefarious and probably, there's like this line that you kind of define, I think, with age, and it's like CGI in movies, where I remember a time watching movies with my parents where CGI was kind of in its infancy, and as a young person, you could just see it. It's like, oh, well, that's cool that they're doing that, but you can tell it's fake. But
for us,
for like younger people,
yeah,
but
what's CGI?
Computer generated images.
Okay.
Yeah, so what would in a movie, anything that's
I would think like Star Wars
or something, anything. I mean, almost everything you watch has CGI in it now, and we just don't see it because it's so good.
So good, yeah.
But there was a time where it's like, oh, here's this computer generated thing that's happening, and it's very obvious, that this is not.
The Wizard of Oz, I think, had a lot of.
It did. Right. I don't think that existed at that time. But it's one of those things where as you got older, like older generations sometimes couldn't tell it apart, you know, and it's just hard to see it. So I think you were seeing that with deepfake too, or sometimes maybe you don't notice it right away, but you can pick up on things and go, oh, there's something not quite right. But an older generation, all of this media is so new to them anyways, sometimes they don't pick up on it. So I do think video content is probably kind of one of the most abusive, like invasive forms of it.
When it's becoming, with more and more people having more and more of their content online, it's becoming easier for these learning machines, these computers, to take your voice or to take even, your face and how you say words and, merge it all together and create some pretty convincing, compelling kinds of advertisements or public announcements or things like that are happening. And especially if you're watching on kind of mobile device, and so maybe the quality is not always as good, or you don't have as good of internet, and you just are like, well, this is better quality than it was when I was younger, and when it's hard to convince what your eyes are seeing, when your senses are being sold on something, it feels like you're crazy to start thinking that's not real, because everything your eyes have seen for 60 years of your lives, everything your ears have heard in that combination together via video, you're like, that's real.
Yeah.
And then for somebody to take those things, it can be very frustrating and make sense that it can be pretty deceiving, especially on video.
And I think for us as adults, like, we have that logic piece that can think through it, but I didn't realize how much, like, I need to also like shepherd my kids and like the younger generation. Cause even when one of the Jurassic World, sorry if I spoil something for someone, but in one of the ends of Jurassic World, like the dinosaurs, one of them, they come to America, and one of them like runs off at the end. Blue runs off into the forest. And so when we were driving to Florida, we were driving through Tennessee, and it's very like heavy woods. And my kids were like, is this where the dinosaurs are? Is this where like they got released? And I didn't even think like, for me, I knew that was something that was computer generated, not reality. But for them,
only Bigfoot's there.
Only Bigfoot.
yeah, right. Yeah,
but it's just one of those things.
And I mean, I'm even at the point now where I'm watching a movie or something like that and going, oh, that looks so realistic, and my kids are like, that looks fake. What are you talking about? So now I'm the tables are turning. I'm in the seat of the old person who's getting fooled by stuff. But I think some of it it feels. I think to the younger generation, some of this conversation, if they're listening to this, is probably so obvious and mundane. It's just like, oh, this is just part of everyday life. Like they can just kind of spot that stuff. I mean, maybe not like kids, but I'm talking like, Gen Z. So you've got teenagers and 20 somethings. They're looking at this stuff and going, yeah, this is part of the existence that we live in. So it's easier for them to spot it. I would say, I mean, when it comes to video content, there are some things where, I mean, you can obviously, like Alex said, assess the quality of it, check for lip syncing and audio issues that seem weird, or even in their face. Sometimes if it looks like their eyes aren't looking in the right direction, or check for contextual surroundings, make sure it seems like a genuine location, or things like that. And the other thing is to keep in mind that, like, yeah, they can make other people's voices out of AI. They can do a lot of these different things that are hard to believe are as good as they are. Malicious chatbots are another thing I think we're experiencing a lot lately, where you're getting a message or a text message and having these conversations with AI and not realizing it. And so it's all around, and it's understandable why it's scary. But I think there's also a side of it that can be leveraged for good. And I mean, we mentioned some of those. Are there any other examples you can think of, like how it's benefited you or how you see it's benefiting you in the future?
I even saw last week, just a recent event of the tornadoes, coming here to Omaha, and a lot of people's stuff being ruined. There was even one of our church members who, one of the things she was doing was helping people whose photos had maybe been damaged, water damaged, or damaged in fire or whatever, from the tornado. And so a lot of like photo regeneration can happen due to AI, and so people maybe that would have lost these photos or whatever, able to kind of get them digitally, and then because of the algorithm on so many of these Photoshop and other applications, you're able to, continue to have those memories, or, save some of those things inside of your computer digitally, and now have them restored. So I that was one of the kind of unique, interesting ways that I saw that happen. I've seen, I think in photography, a lot people have used it, the idea of Photoshop and marketing and, covering people's blemishes, all those things have been things that people have, used forever. And maybe it's not in artificial intelligence, but the tools that it's been using are creating essentially in some way an artificial image inside of our world and culture that doesn't actually live up to the realism. Yeah. So I think we've seen that for a long time, but just the ability for it to notice and generate different backgrounds and things like that, and photography and a lot of Adobe and other places is just fascinating how it can do that.
Yeah.
You could tell it to give you a tattoo, on maybe if on the thumbnail this week, you could give Jess a tattoo.
A face
what
tattoo.
Would you like your tattoo of, Jess?
I don't know. Get creative. Do some maybe flowers.
Okay.
Maybe it's a skull and bones, like
on your throat.
Neck. Yeah.
Okay, can you look at the camera?
Yeah,
so you can get that still shot right there.
I like that he's making you do this, and it's never going to happen. Yeah. So, it's great.
Be looking for the thumbnail this week, everybody. Jess has a skull and bones on her neck and flowers on her face.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily positive, but interesting conversations I've had is just being even like on our counseling website, or just like having friends that are in the business world. Everybody wants headshots for their website, and So they've gone and like had a photographer take a picture, and it's a beautiful picture, but then putting it through AI, and it just like, you know, takes away the blemishes and maybe like 10 years, and it gives you longer hair. And it just has made me think a lot about like, you know, how we're made in the image of God, and like how something like that enhances us, and maybe it's creative and does something awesome, but it also can be something where it's like it's taking away from like how beautiful we are, even if it's like you have a couple wrinkles or you have those things that maybe aren't perfect. It's one of those things that kind of, it's helpful, I guess, if you want to look more professional, but it's kind of made me think more about just like how it can distort and give us another way of maybe not owning who we are. I don't know if that's even the right way of saying what I want to say, but there's just so much in there of like being created in God's image and how that can be distorted.
And I mean, it affects how you see yourself in a lot of ways. I mean, I think one of the things we always try to draw a connection to is the Bible and what there is to even find. Obviously, there's no AI references in the Bible, you know. AI? And it's funny because I think I was Googling that just to see what came up, and it's such a vast variety of people's opinions and, you know, scripture references and things like that. And I mean, you're ultimately going to have to maybe stretch some things a little bit to get it to fit. But Alex, do you have any takes on it?
Well, I mean, I think it can be used. It's a tool ultimately that can be used for great evil, undoubtedly, and I think it can be used for great good. It can build Satan's kingdom. It can be used to build Christ's kingdom. I don't think that God is afraid of it. It's something that He has allowed in His sovereignty to exist inside of our world. And you know, people have had sin running in their hearts and found ways to do evil things since the beginning of time. I mean, the first murder, you know, didn't take very long when Cain and Abel happened, and they didn't need a gun. They didn't need a rifle. They didn't need a knife. You know, they just found the tool that was around them, a rock, and able to kill someone. So if you've got evil running through your heart, which all of us do, there's sin has infected each one of us. And if sin is the thing that's grabbed a hold of our heart and is the thing that's leading our lives, then we're going to find whatever tool is at our disposal to create chaos inside of people's lives. And Satan's going to use whatever tool necessary to create chaos inside of our lives. Money is one of those things that before credit cards and Venmo, and no matter how you spend money, money's been around, and it's been one of those things that's been used to build God's kingdom and used to tear down God's kingdom. And so I think over and over we see in Scripture this idea that sin runs deep in us. Romans 3:23 says, hey, we've all sinned. We all fall short of God's glory. And you have places in Romans that talk about, you know, but we're supposed to be transformed by the renewal, the metamorpho of our minds. And so that we're not people that are easily caught up in sin's deceit, that sin is trying to constantly deceive us. And that same, I think, basic thing that Satan was trying to do was a deep fake in some ways. He comes up to Eve and he's like, did God really say? I mean, I think one of his ploys is always trying to get us to doubt God's goodness, the image that God has borne onto his people, that he's laid on his people, and he tries to get us to doubt. I mean, that's skepticism, and doubt is one of his greatest tools that he will use inside of as his offense to try to knock us off track. And so I think that's just one of the things that Satan constantly will do. So he'll use AI, he'll use all sorts of things inside of your life to, you know, create havoc. And so as Christians, we have to be, I think, constantly aware, inviting the Spirit to give us discernment, because I don't think it's something there's definitely people with the gift of discernment, but I think it's one of those things that we need to invite. Yeah. You know, especially at a faster moving pace than ever, we have to invite the Lord to be giving us discernment in all sorts of ways. So this is one place you need to invite the Lord to give you discernment on how you should diet, the things that you should put in your body, all of those types of things. And so again, it's one of those places that I think inviting the Spirit to be discerning, to have these conversations, which is partly why we're having it, to bring awareness, raise awareness to, hey, this is a reality and there's things I need to be on guard for. There's the classic, person that studies money, right? They don't study fake bills. They study the real thing so that they're able to know the fake thing. And so I think the more we study what it really means to be human, what human flourishing really looks like in Scripture, and how God has said this is what human flourishing looks like, the more we're able to spot the real, then I think we'll be able to be more sensitive to the counterfeit. But if we spend all our time looking at the counterfeit, I think we miss out on experiencing the real thing too.
Yeah, that's good.
That's just a lot of blah, blah, blah from me, but...
No, you're just preaching a little bit. It's okay.
Sorry.
It's good.
Let him go.
Preach your hat off.
We're letting you cook. Jesse, anything you want to add there?
One thing I was just thinking as you were talking about discernment, Alex, I think if we're like struggling with that, it's Eric, you gave some great tools a little bit earlier where it's not like we have to like search and pull at straws for, okay, what is truth? It's like going back to even information that we've been given about texts and videos, and I think just like taking a pause and looking at that.
Yeah, send it to someone. Ask somebody, and I think their pride gets in the way too sometimes. Like,
we don't want to.
Hey, do you think this is real? Before you just share something on social media, especially that seems kind of weird or against someone's character, ask that person if you know them. All those kind of things. You see all the time on Facebook, all these fake profiles being made by bots or whatever, and I'm like, I don't hardly accept any of those, and then all of a sudden. But it dupes people all the time.
Well, and I think when you're talking about things like deep fakes, I couldn't imagine the conversations that are probably happening, because it would probably start with people not bringing it to your attention in a lot of ways. Like people sending it around going, can you believe this? This video Alex was in or whatever, and that conversation's happening. And then it starts to speak to like, oh, like what? Like, what do you think of my integrity? Like, if you're spreading this stuff around and it's, obviously fake, but you think it's real. I don't know. It's it can just be so destructive. I mean, I think of one time early on the years of Twitter when like the accounts first started getting hacked, or, you'd put your password in and it'd get taken over by something. And this isn't really AI or even really close to it, but that had happened to me. And all of a sudden my account was like just tweeting links to pornography, and I hadn't been on it for a while, and all of a sudden I looked and I was kind of freaking out, because I'm just thinking like, what does this say about my character? What are people thinking that my account is doing right now? And so I'm like deleting these tweets, and I heard later from like a coworker who was higher up at the organization I was at, that they were having conversations about me tweeting this stuff out. And I just couldn't believe it, and I never even had to have a conversation with them until it wasn't me. I think they realized it on their own eventually. Yeah. But it was just so shocking to me that it hadn't even like come to me to be like, oh, why are you doing this or anything like that. It was just these behind closed doors conversations that are happening. Like, well, should we allow this? Like, this isn't good, and it's just
right.
It's one of those things where we don't know. We don't know what the snowball effects are of something like this, and like what that means for people. But I think it's common sense. Use common sense, like you said, Alex.
I think conversations too, like this, make me think. How aware should I be of things, and then what? Like, I need to know my limitations. Like we said before, like if it's a sin that you struggle with, it's like. We do need to be aware of what's in the world, but we don't need to know like every detail and like be Googling or searching everything. And so it's like being awareness. And I think that's the tension that these conversations bring, where it's like, I want to be in the world, but not of it. And what does it look like to be aware and informed, but I don't need to get all the way in the weeds with things. And so I think a conversation like that is a good heart conversation to have, and even like conversations to have and to take past this episode and have with other people to keep processing.
And just be honest if you're using the tool. Like, I don't think anybody's going to judge you if you like created an outline for something in ChatGPT or, you needed help, trying to formulate thoughts or use those things. I think that's the other caution I would give people is like, if you use it, just tell people, hey, I use this, as a resource in helping me do this, because I think the other danger is, then you lose trust when people figure out, hey, there's not this genuineness that's happening here, or you're taking credit for all of this kind of stuff. I think it's fine. It's going to be something people do into the future, and a tool people use, and it's going to be more normative to just say that out loud and to say that, hey, I use this tool, helping me create this thing.
Nobody felt bad about using Clippy for all those years.
Yeah.
Clippy was always there helping us out in Microsoft Word. You remember
the little
paperclip guy?
Paperclip, no, the little squiggles, that were detecting that you spelled things wrong, or you put. So, I think.
And I think some of that's just so commonplace that I think some of these language model learning tools are just going to become that, and it'll be less of like this moral thing. It'll just be a thing that we use. Right. All right. Well, it's a lot of AI conversation. I feel exhausted. I'm going to ask ChatGPT what I could do to relax after this. I think it's wise.
Go watch clips of AI.
Playing.
Playing.
Of what?
Allen Iverson. The OG AI.
Oh, yeah.
Allen Iverson.
Oh, basketball reference.
Basketball reference.
Good. All right. Well, if you have any questions or concerns, or you'd like to formulate a letter using ChatGPT and email it to us, you can do that at podcast@cccomaha.org, or you can reach out to us on social media on Instagram or TikTok at CCCOMA Podcast, or leave us a voicemail at 402-885-9930. And until next time, we'll talk to you then.